Hello and welcome everyone to I Have a Joystick, Questionable Judgment, and All Night to Fly, our gaming panel here at the 501st Legion's Life Day Telethon. I'm Marcus Frawley, ID 74096 of the Badlands Garrison, 501st Legion, and I will be your host for this panel. I really hope you've been finding enjoyment in our panels that have happened thus far, and that you enjoy this upcoming panel. I want to start by saying that this year we're supporting the World Central Kitchen. It's a not-for-profit organization that provides food for humanitarian missions, climate disasters, and communities that are in need. We've already made it a little bit over halfway of our goal, so if you have the means, even if only a little bit, we definitely encourage you to donate because it can really help those in need. Without further ado, let's jump right in. As I alluded to, this is a panel on gaming, and we're very lucky to have a special guest with us today, John Gallagher. For those who may not know, John is an award-winning concept artist who's worked on many great projects, which we will definitely dive in. One in particular that has resonated with many of us, as we kind of been chatting before this has started, is the 2003 Knights of the Old Republic, which is definitely one of my favorite games ever made, and John's work on bringing some of those characters to life is definitely appreciated. But the panel's not about me, so without further ado, I'd like to have my co-host jump in and start to introduce themselves, and then we'll get right into it. So, Nina, why don't you start us off?
Hello, I'm Nina Marley, 26272. I am the Flagship Eclipse Detachment Leader, obviously a very big one for Knights of the Old Republic and a lot of the other video game characters. Go ahead. Next.
I'm Jared Sylvius. I'm TK12140. I'm a bit of a new member here and happy to be here.
Are we going to me? Oh, I was very graciously introduced. I'm John Gallagher. I'm a production artist and concept designer, and I'm a very fortunate accidental tourist in all of this. I helped create a game many years ago as a member of the team at BioWare that has again resonated and impacted Star Wars culture, pop culture, but Star Wars in particular. And again, humbled and gracious and happy to be here. Honored to share company with you all.
We're very happy to have you. We have a couple other co-hosts, so why don't we start in with Ryan, just to make sure we have introduced everyone, and then we'll jump right into some cool questions.
Hi, I'm Ryan. I'm TI 10393 from Badlands Garrison in Alberta, Canada. Huge Kotor fan. Kotor was the first ever video game I played, and just a Star Wars video game fan in general.
Hi everyone, I'm Sonia, DS61018, and I'm from Italica Garrison. I'm a public relation officer for the 501st, and I'm also an hardcore gamer, so I love a lot of games that John Gallagher was involved with.
Uh-oh.
So we're going to turn kind of to more of a free form where we're going to ask some questions. I find that that's kind of easiest, and that way it also allows us to go on a tangent and probably branch off of those. So to start off with, what was it like? I know, like, we've had conversations in the past, and I've heard you speaking that, you know, you're always a Star Wars fan and stuff like that. What was it like to be able to work on, like, KOTOR, like a huge, successful Star Wars game? Like, what was that experience like?
Surreal. I think that the term that always has occupied lives in my brain rent free is surreal, because Star Wars, when I was a youngster, like many of us of a certain vintage, that's a polite way of saying old balls. I was 10 years old when I saw the movie, and it was the perfect time. And it was like a nuclear strike. It was the meteor that hit the earth and killed the dinosaurs for me. So nothing had hit me like that. And in quick succession, I discovered Frank Frazetta. I started reading more adult comics. I started buying Famous Monsters magazine. So it was just a cascade event, but Star Wars was the catalyst for it. And it hit us all, I think, with us in our creative topsoil. And many of us, many of my friends and colleagues, we all share a similar story that it blew our brains apart. And then we assembled the pieces back together. It was very clear for many of us that we wanted to do that. We didn't know what the hell that was, I lived in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Okay, it's right there in the steel shield of northern Ontario, right in the middle of the bush, right on the water. Brutal, rough, working class town. Aspirations to having an art career are preposterous and at best improbable. But I knew I wanted to do that. And the impetus and the driving force behind it was always Star Wars. And flash forward many years later, we're having a company meeting. And it was all hush hush. We weren't allowed to talk about it. We weren't allowed to say anything. And we had two projects on the table. One was with Sony, and it was some whatever yickety yakety schmickety schmackety bullshit. And the other was Star Wars. And we didn't even hear the other thing, because Ray and Greg went through well, they want to kind of do this thing. They're like, you said Star Wars. And at that time, it was only about 60 of us at BioWare, so we could all fit in a conference room. And Ray and Greg are like, so can we get a show of hands? Who wants the Sony thing? Like 3 people were like, yeah, being edgelords, right? They're like, yeah, I'm the contrarian. And then 57 other people said, Star Wars, are you kidding? We started flipping chairs. We're like, are you kidding? What can we do with this? Let's get on this. So we had we were absolutely knocked out that this was not only going to happen, but could even happen. And it's the first time in my life that I truly realized that dreams could come true creatively. You know, it's the first opportunity you have to contribute original content to a property that meant so much to you. So it truly became like a love letter, in a sense, like thanking this property for hitting us the way it did. Because it could have just as easily been forgotten. It could have been trampled under the hooves of time. It had been 5 years before or 5 years after. But it didn't. It happened. It was an accident in history. And for many of us, it's predestination. And being able to contribute for the 2 years that I was on it was a gift, a privilege. And I felt like because I've always been a fan first instead of a pro first, or someone who's like detached and kind of cynical about, oh, I'm not like those people, I'm cool. You're like, okay, whatever, pal. I'm a fan first. I live and die as a fan first. And I felt like that brings a different energy, you know, a different creative wavelength to the proposition. And I think most of us in HOD positions were of a similar mindset. We had plenty of conflict, and we fought all the time, because, you know, there's nothing like Star Wars fans fighting about shit. But we fought, I think, not because of ego, but, well, sometimes because of ego, but mostly to create the best thing we could. And at the end of it, to have it received so warmly, and it wasn't without its faults. Let's not be ridiculous here. And we would probably go back and do things differently here and there. But I think generally, as standing the test of time, a bit like Star Wars itself, the original film, the OG that brought us all to the table. Sure, it has problems, but God damn, it's something else, right?
Well,
Absolutely.
for a lot of us 80s kids, like obviously we weren't born yet to experience the original magic of, you know, Star Wars. And so the big Star Wars releases in our times during our developmental years was like the prequels, but a lot of us didn't really latch onto those as much. But when it came to stuff like when I talked to people around my age, it was like, what was the biggest influence of Star Wars for you? They're like, it was KOTOR. Like everybody who played around that time was like, yeah, KOTOR was like mind-blowing, and not only the concept, but like how it played, and like, and we were talking about this earlier, how hard you got attached to characters. Like BioWare has always been good at that, but it was just like the movies are great and you have your cool characters, but like KOTOR, you really latched on. Like Revan, I would argue Revan is unofficially one of the most popular characters in Star Wars, and he's never been in a movie. He's never been in anything except comics, some figures, and the video game. Like it had a huge influence on our lives.
It
I
is
think
definitely.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Revan is definitely the coolest thing for me that came out of KOTOR. Like the first time you see that scene where he's fighting Bastila, that intro to kind of introduce, it's like amazing. Like just the stance that he holds the lightsaber. Like I know the moment I finished playing that, I was like up, like pretending to use a lightsaber in the exact same movements. Like
That's awesome.
fantastic.
How great
Okay,
is
so it wasn't
that?
just me.
Well, he also, it's one of the first characters that actually, like, obviously Star Wars has such a strong, like, black and white concept. He was one of the first major ones that actually had, like, development to him, and he had more than just 2 shades of color to his I guess his intuitions and his intents.
Yeah, we I can say this in fairness and balance, and I really don't care if any of my ex-bio guys come for me. James Olin, the lead designer, probably the only genius I've ever worked with. And I use that word fucking never. And he's probably the first one I've worked with. The peculiarities and the idiosyncrasies of his demented genius really informed our identity, certainly in the early days. And it became a footprint that was nearly impossible to eclipse or even equal. And I don't have rose-colored glasses. I know that James and I used to fight all the time. But we were always fighting for the same thing. We were fighting to make it as good as we possibly can in the time we have available with the resources on board. And so we were like twin captains, right? Like he ran by intellect and I ran by brute force. And we had other people around us who were just truly extraordinary. Like it was a historical moment. I think we all knew, like you remember in The Office when Andy says that one time where he says, wouldn't it be great if we knew we were in the good old days?
Yeah,
we all knew we were in the good old days. We all knew for many of us this and that kind of bringing something to the table that we all had an investment in that was truly unparalleled. Because all our other games, all our other IPs had no history with any of us. They were all scratch built, right? Mass Effect was from nowhere. Dragon Age was from nowhere. It's from a vacuum. But Star Wars, this was our gift back. And I think we had an extra level of commitment and to engagement, because we often say, well, wouldn't it be cool if we knew a little bit more about that person over there? Wouldn't it be cool if we knew about that character over there? Because that was one of our asks with the movies. Yeah, they were cool and stuff, but wouldn't it be neat if we kind of got a version of a backstory that was unexpected and beautiful and heartbreaking and all those things that we all, carry in our own stories. And I think, yeah, I mean, if that's something that resonates, again, we're aging ourselves because we did see the original Star Wars. But I love that it, like my daughter giving me shit about all the games that she plays that I worked on before she was, well, some, I think in a couple of cases before she was even born, is kind of remarkable. That to me is, I mean, that's the greatest thing. You want your work to persist past its shelf life. And in games, it's always a gamble because you never know how it's going to go. It can always, a game can shit itself in a week and disappear off shelves in a month.
I can say, like, oh, go ahead.
No, you please.
I was gonna say, so I actually have Darth Revan as my character, right? I'm totally not biased about him being the best character, but so even today, I will go at troops and whatnot, and there will be kids barely old enough to talk who will come up and be like, "It's Darth Revan," and I'm like, "Oh my god!" Like adults, the older adults are like, "I don't know who you are," but then like the little kids, they were born maybe 6 years ago at most, and they're like, they know who Darth Revan is, and they're like, "Oh my god, I love you. You're like one of my favorite characters." And I'm like, see, that's parenting done right. But that shows like that shows just the legacy that well, BioWare games in general, but like KOTOR specifically, like how strong it attached to people.
Absolutely.
Like they're carrying it on to their kids.
I mean, we even have like a remaster coming out. Like, so like it's so popular that, you know, almost 20 years later we're gonna have this, you know, remaster to bring it to a whole new generation. Much like Jared said that he's just diving into Mass Effect, where it had its anniversary edition on Steam. You know, when you do that, you breathe new life into these characters and have a whole nother generation that gets to experience them. So
Well,
could say-
there's something to I'm geek culture. Sure, we all have our issues with it because it can be a problematic, toxic nightmare. But at its heart, in its most purest form, in the DNA that we want to share, recognize, and connect with other people on, I think there's a tradition of inheritance and a transgenerational love that carries across. You know, we see this in the most persistent franchises that speak to humans' greatest aspirations, whether it's Star Trek or Star Wars, whatever the case may be. And I love that I see that as well when I see little kids come up and go, HK-47. You're like, what? Did your parents put you up to that? And they actually know, and they live and breathe this stuff. And again, I think there's something gorgeous in that. I've told another story about Star Wars when we were working on the game. The HODs, the heads of departments, got to go down to Skywalker Ranch, and well, that was wild. I realized that if you work there, it's just like, oh, hum, another day at the office. But I kept thinking back to when I saw Star Wars, you know, when I was a kid, first time I saw it, and how looking out over Ewok Lake, it's really called that, and looking up on the hills, and Skywalker Sound is up there, you know, this beautiful kind of Sith temple compound built into the side of a mountain. Well, hill. Well, I'm not going to exaggerate. It's not a mountain. It's a hill. And just going, I can't believe that kid from Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario is here. And I wouldn't think that way about anything else. I've been on movie lots. I've worked in film for 15 years. I've been in sets of big movies and everything else. None of those moments resonated like that than that moment where I was standing on the front steps of the main house, Skywalker Ranch. And I just said, son of a bitch, you did it, kid. Well done.
well, that's like, I have that experience. Oh, sorry, carry on.
Oh, you know, I was, and to my point, the second part of that day, if you can believe it, that was in the morning. And we ended up having lunch at Skywalker Ranch, and it was unbelievable. It's like, it was not just like they call it a cafeteria, which is an insult, just like calling the library a library there. The biggest piece of Tiffany glass in the world covers this library and bathes it in an amber glow. It's ridiculous. That's what money gets you, especially nerd money. And so the restaurant's incredible. We had this amazing meal. And I had gotten Ralph McQuarrie's phone number and address from Doug Chang. And Doug says, yeah, give him a call. He's awesome. He'll definitely have you by. So me and a couple other guys drove up to Ralph McQuarrie's house in Berkeley. And he's on top of the mountain, Spruce Street. Can't go any higher. 270 of the bay. And one thing that he did mention, he said, you know, I know George takes a lot of flack. It was some of it he deserves, most of it he doesn't. He goes, but I tell you what, he came by the house and he gave me a check for $9 million. And he kept it right off the books, didn't say anything to anybody. He said, thank you, Ralph. And this is in 1988, 87. So that's about $25 million now. Because this property that he's on, I can assure you, was a $3 to $4 million house. And he deserved it. Because without him as an architect of Star Wars, there would be no Star Wars, frankly. Or if it was, it would be diminished and not the piece of principal pop culture architecture that it is now. And I was like, whoa, wow. I mean, Ralph, that's wonderful. I love hearing stories of creative heroes coming home and being taken care of, especially in their elder years, because his Parkinson's had already gotten a hold of him by that point. And I asked him, when did you know that this Star Wars that you did as a gig when you were still at Boeing and you hadn't committed to working in film yet, when did you know you'd arrived? And he goes, he has this, he sounds a lot like Jimmy Stewart. Wow, I tell you, John, I'm not going to insult him by doing a terrible impression of him, but he's got that wonderful Midwestern drawl, you know, he just got this cool laconic energy. And he says, wow, I tell you what, I was walking down the street. He goes, I like to go for walks at night. I'm a good stoic. He goes, I like to go for walks at night. He goes, I was walking down the street, and he goes, for whatever reason, I don't know, maybe detective movies, I love streetlights at night in the dark. He goes, I was standing underneath one, having a smoke, because I think I'm a detective. And he said this thing, he said this piece of paper kind of blew up to his foot. And it was the wrapper of Star Wars. You remember the collectible cards that had the yellow packets and blue Darth Vader and a little red sting in the corner? It was Star Wars. He picked it up and he went, oh, you son of a bitch, you did it. And so it's the same kind of, and I'm not suggesting by any means, I assure you of this, Ralph is a titan and an immortal. I'm a hack who got fortunate and met the right people, but I felt a similar sense of place. And I think the idea that Star Wars can affect you emotionally, intellectually, culturally, socially, is a testimony to the work of genius that it is. And being able to do a game that affected people that way. But I'm just going to keep regurgitating it over and over again, that it's such a humbling honor to have your work reach out, that you were a part of, and reach out and change people's lives in some cases. Like, I have people who tell me that that game saved them. You know, they were going through a really tough time personally, and it saved them. It was their therapist and their hero. You know, that's extraordinary. That transcends me doing a 20-minute sketch with Darth Revan and James going, it's perfect. Let's go with that. One sketch. I didn't do 50. We didn't have a focus group. I did one sketch, which, by the way, is probably worth a lot of money, but I don't know. I ain't selling it, that's for sure. But it's like nothing else. Nothing else has come close. I get to work on really cool stuff, except maybe working on The Boys. That was pretty fun. But that's a different kind of jam for sure. It's a different jazz that you get from that. Just because it's so demented and hilarious and filthy and funny, and the crew was amazing. So that's a different kind of jam. I feel like The Boys is its own moment, and but Star Wars will be eternal. I think there'll always be a huge presence in the world, because it's bigger than any of us. That's for sure.
It really resonated with me. Like, I work in IT, so like I love technology, but I work in a school, and I also help bring STEAM, which is science, technology, you know, engineering, arts, mathematics, into the class. And my biggest thing that's my passion that I do, like, as a hobby, is also robotics, and that's mostly stemming from Star Wars, because there are key iconic characters that are Star Wars. And so one of my main passions, one of the schools I worked at previously, is that was my total job, is to bring robotics and, you know, that kind of stuff in the classroom, and to share that with the students. Of, like, you know, these are K to 12 students, but all of them are saying, like, oh, it's so much like R2, or it's so much like this. And then you start talking about bipedal, and it's like, you know, it's really cool to think of C3PO, obviously Anthony Daniels, but like also like HK and like all of the, you know, robotic entities that you see in this. So I know that Star Wars has touched me on numerous levels, but that one, I love robotics. I think it's the coolest thing ever to think of this autonomous being doing things. So I definitely agree that it kind of touches you and kind of helps shape what you end up doing with your life when you're really attached to something, like you wanting to be a part of it, me wanting to make robots because they're cool, you know, that kind of stuff.
Well, I think you're right. I think there's a degree of in some cases, there's a degree of predestination. It's almost like it clocks you and says, you know what, your metric for the rest of your life, the only metronome you're going to hear in the back of your head is one day you'll work on Star Wars. I didn't think I ever would. I mean, obviously, what kind of fever dream jackhole would I be if I was like, Star Wars is coming for me. I just know it. It's madness.
Manifest that.
It's a
Yeah,
fool's
exactly.
errand, but it's also something that I never gave up on. It was you know, it was a bit like the white whale. I was just like, I was haunted by this thing. It was like I kept drawing Star Wars stuff, like then it just landed in front of us. And we all kind of went, holy crap, what are we gonna do? And James looks over at me and goes, well, let's get to work.
I wanted to ask.
That was it. That was day one. What do you got in mind? And he says, let me walk you through it. I was like, this sounds like a D&D campaign, James.
Nothing wrong
And
with
he's
that.
like, it might be. I don't know, maybe.
Baldur's
Anyway.
Gate, but make it Star Wars.
But make it Star Wars, like make it count. And I don't know, I've never met a group of developers who ever intended to go out and make something that they didn't give a damn about. Like, it may seem like it, like when you play a game, you're like, oh, they just mailed this in. But they still committed, and they still spent the time, and they still spent the labor and the passion and the arguments and the late nights and the drop balls and all the madness that comes with development. They still did it, and they brought it to the finish line. But we used to get a kick out of is James always had this thing, was like, never tell me the odds, because we would actually, you know, the chances of this game being popular are approximately 5,975 to 1. I'm like, never tell me that. And it was kind of an ongoing kind of gut check for us as we were moving through the process, because I work closest with director of programming, director of design. I kind of run adjacent to the producer, because the producer has bigger fish to fry and has to keep the trains running on time over here. But as the main concept designer, I'm working primarily with James, and to a lesser degree with the head of programming. So he and I had the closest kind of working rapport. And so we were Butch and Sundance, I think, just to give it a proper age era thing. And it was you know, I kind of missed that alliance. I think if there's one thing that I would like to go back and capture, like put lightning in a bottle, it would be that kind of, and I hate the word, but well, you gotta bounce with it, that kind of synergy. Because video games was still acting like, given its lineage in 2003, it was still acting like basically a 19-year-old kid, a 20-year-old kid, if you can personify it. And we all know we were shitty when we were 20. That's truth. We all were. Come on, let's be good to ourselves. And if you're 20 now, no offense, I'm sorry, but you're gonna look back at yourself, what the hell? Come on, man, what's that all about? But when we were like 18, 19, 20, I mean, we're kind of growing into our feet, you know, our hands are still a little bit too big for our bodies. So it was a little more, you know, you're a little more like Han Solo was in the first movie, you know, you're a little devil may care, you throw shit to the wall, see what sticks, take more chances. And BioWare, while we were successful, we hadn't become a victim of that success, or a systemic victim of that success, which means you can't take as many chances the more successful you get than you took prior. So you have a series, like you have a diminishing timeline of taking risks creatively, big risks. Because, you know, like, for example, with Revan's reveal, that could very well have shit the bed in a different time or in a different game, that kind of moment, right? So I think for us, it was really the last, in fairness, probably the last time we took big creative chances.
And it ended up being our generation's version of "No, I am your father," and we're like,
Yeah.
Literally, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that
Right?
reveal
I've
hit
heard
just as
that.
hard as that.
I've heard that from a lot of people, that was the equivalent of, that moment. I remember seeing Empire Strikes Back. It's the first time I skipped school to go see a movie. Not the last time, but it's the first time. And I came back to school in the afternoon, and I was sworn to secrecy because only me and two buddies had bootlegged and skipped class and went to see it. And we were sworn to secrecy in the days when people could keep secrets. And friends started going to see it. They went to see it that weekend. Everyone says, what? He's who? Oh my God. So everybody came to school on Monday, blabbed it, and we'd known it for a week, and we kept our mouths shut. Why? Because we had respect. That's why we have respect for our fellow classmates. And also, it's awesome walking around with a secret like that and no one else knows. Because we went to the D&D club. We had 2 D&D sessions that week. We had one on a Tuesday and one on a Friday. And it's all the guys that didn't go to the movie. Like, hey, so what happened in Emperor? Some stuff. Like, tell us more. I'm going this weekend. No, I'm not saying nothing. And it was, I don't know if, was that a secret that everybody kept in Knights of the Old Republic? Did everybody stay off message boards?
Yeah.
They didn't blow it, like
For
they
the
kind of
most
kept
part.
that in the can?
I actually
Absolutely.
encouraged a lot of my friends to play it, and then was like, I'm not going to say anything, but there is definitely a kind of moment coming up. So definitely
Yeah.
enjoy it. Yeah.
I had
And
2 friends that
everybody
played
just-
it before I did, and they wouldn't tell me anything about it. And then once I finished the game, they were like, "Okay, so how did you react to that reveal?"
Yeah, and how did everybody react to the reveal? Let's get a consensus.
For
I'm pretty
me,
sure mine was like just, "Oh shit!"
Yeah.
it floored me, to be honest. I put the game down for a day, and I was like, "Holy crap! The character I've been playing is Revan."
Yeah.
I'm like,
Absolutely. Mine was similar to that. Like after that reveal, I literally like paused it and I was like, what? Because I
Yeah.
like immediately the first time I saw him, like I said, I thought it was the coolest character I ever saw. And then to find out you are that character, you're like, sorry for spoilers for anyone who hasn't played it. It's 20 years. I mean, you probably
It's
had
20
time.
years.
Yeah, exactly.
He's what?
Yeah, exactly.
I fell into the category where I unfortunately, because I'm so young, a lot of that stuff already came out. So I learned a bit about how it happened. Though just that, yeah, the character got spoiled for me, but I
Yeah.
didn't know the circumstances around it.
Mhm.
So even after knowing that, I knew it was going to happen, but actually watching it, it was still like such a surreal moment. I'm like, what? Okay, so that's how that happened. That is so cool.
Even for you, like
Yeah.
they expanded on the story so much, like in Kotor, like even
Mhm.
everybody got to experience a new like no shit moment
Yeah.
for that whole thing.
Yeah.
Like so they
Yeah.
kind of even made it for the new generation to have that sort of effect with him. I mean, it
But
wasn't the best story.
I
but it
was
still sick.
happy too. After the first moment of shock, because me too, I was like, really? But then I was really happy because I love that character, the charisma, the power, the costume. I love the costume. So I was like, oh my, so I've played this whole time, but I was Revan. So I was really happy, really happy.
Well, I haven't played it. So you ruined it for me.
Yeah, exactly.
I've had enough of this crap. I'm out of here. No, as I said, I've played the game asynchronously, so I knew the moment, and I remember mentioning it to James that I was like, this is kind of a nice tribute to everybody. A lot of people who are playing this game who don't get that moment in their life.
Mhm.
It's a gift back. And there's nothing better than finding out you were the coolest who've ever lived.
Right?
Right? Like you give that to a player. And I said, truth is, as I was playing, because we were again out of sync, I was like, I get a sense in this, there's going to be cool shit, but we're not going to get close to that. And we're probably not going to get close to that again in any of our games. He's like, oh, come on. And I said, dude, I think this is peak. I don't know if what we can give an audience that's going to touch them any more than this. And he's like, yeah, you're right, but all right, let's keep on going. I was like, let's charge on, son. Let's charge on. But yeah, I know that it's had a significant impact, and you know, I think anyone who does anything and they're fortunate enough and have enough gratitude to do this for a living, dreams of having something that resonates with an audience, that you're not in the room to kind of get them excited about it. You know, you don't have to hype it up. You don't have to market yourself to say, hey, you're really going to like it. Trust me. And to have that kind of moment, that's really kind of fascinating. I mean, I've learned to, because for the longest time after, and I'm admission here, Bioware and I didn't part ways in the best possible of circumstances. Fair to say. I won't go into details, but it was a mutual parting with some disdain on both sides. And that may have been the impetuity of youth or whatever it was. We were all kind of young and a little bit of in over our heads. So obviously time has moved on, and so we all, I'm close with Ray and Greg and all of that. That's all been put in the past, as it should be. But I've grown to become far more affectionate to the work we created in the first half of our lives, of our creative lives, rather. And I don't nitpick it like I used to, right? Like everyone knows that I hate Darth Malik's design. I've never made a secret of it. I didn't design the character. And I don't hate it because I didn't design the character. I just go, well, that's not what I would have done at all.
I will point out the one that, because I remember one of the concepts you did for Malik looks like what they use now for Malgus.
Correct.
And I was like, that would have been so much better if it had been utilized. Like, every time I saw that, I was like, you see Malgus, it's like, that could have been our Malik.
Correct. I am not gonna dissuade you from your version of that experience. Yeah, we just had creative differences, and I just said no. It absolutely looks like shit, and I don't care who records this. I don't care who sees this. I really don't. I make no apologies. It's an absolutely treacherously shit design. It's ill-conceived and it's badly realized. And it also, for the record, let's be clear, it's almost impossible to do properly with cosplay.
It is, yes.
It says to me that it's a terrible design, because if you're not thinking bilaterally symmetrical humanoid to allow access points and rotation and paying attention to what your animators need and what your modelers need, it's a terrible design. So that's where I'm going to end this. And if the dude who designed it is watching this, I still hate the goddamn design. It's not getting any better with time. In fact, it's getting worse.
That's fair.
That's my only grievance. My only grievance.
That's not bad, honestly, from a whole project there. So we have about
it's
5
a
minutes.
beautifully put together project. It really is.
Yes. Yeah.
A gorgeous piece of work. That's my only grievance, is that guy stinks. And he's beside Revan.
I hate you.
He's right beside Revan.
Yeah.
With this elegant, gorgeous thing. And
yeah, have to have
there's
that.
This dope who looks like a Mort from our gang in Bazooka Joe. What are you doing, pal? What are you doing?
Well, you have to have the really good looking one, and then the one that complements the really good looking one by not being so good looking.
But he's not a wingman. Like, he's meant to be a Sith Lord. He's supposed to inspire fear and awe. And you know what I get from him is like, what the hell happened? You look like a desiccated corpse. You look silly.
There's a lot of Sith Lords in the comics that end up like that, though. Like when you look at like the early 2000s, late 90s Sith Lords, some of them are just like, Oh, okay. Like, you're not
been a rough
intimidating at
road.
all. Like, I'm having a
Yeah.
hard time believing that you somehow conquered an entire galaxy through fear and intimidation because all I want to do is laugh at your very tight pants.
That's fair.
Well, I
Well-
think I think the the heart of the design in any of this is elegant simplicity, and I think if you run in opposition to that, and that's how Ralph described it to me, it's just elegant simplicity, clean lines, and architecture is predominantly brutalism. And he said these are rules that we just kind of followed because it makes it so much easier to maintain the franchise identity. And he goes, and to me, when I'm thinking about it myself, is I appreciate anyone who has an outlier disposition as a designer, where they're a little off the beaten path and they do wild, peculiar, and interesting things. And I'm 100% there for it, where uniforms have gorgeous moments in them and stuff. I'm not against any of that. But what I'm against is deliberate shit design. And I mean, I can pick it apart all day, I suppose, but that's the only thing. So let's be clear, put this on the record. That's the only problem I have with Kotor is I think Malik is a drip of a design, and not in a good way.
But I want to know about Bastila now. What do you think about Bastila?
Unfortunately,
I think she
before
looks
you answer
marvelous.
there, John, I just want to remind everyone we only have a few minutes left.
Okay.
So we'll finish up that Bastila question there, and then you can leave out like with some closing comments there, John. And then unfortunately we have to bring this to an end. I would love to continue doing this
Sure.
all day, but
I think I'm satisfied with all of the designs. I think Bastila's marvelous. I've seen her cosplayed. She looks fabulous. I've seen some iteratives of her in the meantime, like other artists have created some really wonderful work with her. Cosplayers do marvelous jobs. Yeah, I don't have any grievance with any of it. I'm just knocked out when I see any of it. It's as equally surreal as when we were offered Star Wars. When I see a Darth Revan walk up to me or a Bastila, it just knocks me out. It makes me like 5 years old again. I feel like one of those 5-year-old kids running up going, "Oh, Darth Revan." So I'm in love with all of it. When I see any of it, it doesn't reduce me to tears, but it certainly gives me pause to be honored that way, to something I started out as a little sketch, and then it's brought to life by an amazing team of creators, and then it goes out in the world, and then other people bring it into their lives and spend hours, hundreds of hours, making costumes and presenting. It's just wow, just knocks me out.
I know when we were at Grand Con, when we all approached you and we had a couple of those Kotor characters, the light that was in your eyes immediately when you saw it, you
Dude,
were like blown away.
It's just like nothing else, man. It's like nothing else. I mean, the only thing that eclipses all of it, probably the birth of my daughter, actually.
That's a
That's
good
it.
thing to eclipse it, absolutely.
And that's so far above everything else. It doesn't even count.
Family's everything,
But
of course.
in terms of my creative life, nothing's come close to that at all. Like not even a hint.
That's fair. Well, I want to take the time to thank you, John, for chatting with us. It was
course.
awesome. I loved you sharing your passion for the projects and stuff like that. I also like to thank my co-host, and I really hope the audience enjoyed everything. Remember, if you have the means, definitely donate to our charity, and I can now pass it off to our next panel.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate you having me. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for hanging out. Anyone wants to hit me, I'm easy to find on social media. And let's do this again real soon. All right.
Absolutely.
Take care, everyone.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Hope you have a festive season, and we hope to see you in the new year. Have a happy new year. Out to you.
Santa's greetings from all of us in the Military Garrison.
Hey 501st, it's Tia Sirkar here, aka Sabine Wren. How are you guys? I miss you. I hope to see you in real life soon. Just wanted to say happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and of course, happy Life Celebration Day. It's amazing the work you're doing, and World Hunger is a cause very near and dear to my heart. So keep up the good work. Thank you for what you're doing. And yeah, happy holidays. Holidays for me mostly means spending time with my family. That's my number one priority. And the holidays with the Sirkar family is basically revolves around food. There's a lot of cooking, a lot of baking, a lot of eating, and you know, opening presents under the tree, all that good stuff, but really just spending time with each other. That's what's most important for me with the holidays. And I also just wanted to say, if you feel like it, you can check out my new Christmas movie, A Gingerbread Christmas, which is available to stream right now on Discovery Plus. It also involves a lot of cooking, a lot of baking, and a lot of eating, and a lot of food. The food in the movie is beautiful. So you're into that. If you're into that, highly recommend. And yeah, hopefully it'll just bring you a little joy and a little Christmas holiday spirit. Anyway, hope to see you guys soon in real life, I hope. And yeah, have a great holiday. Mwah.
All right, everyone. That's it. It's a wrap. This is the wrap party. First of all, we want to thank every single one of the panelists that contributed to this event. We tried our best to get as much good entertainment for you guys, and we had incredible guests. We had incredible interviewers, and we want to thank everyone for weeks and weeks of very, very hard work. I need to do a special thanks to this crew that's behind the scenes. We've got Jamie at ×2. We've got David that's back there. And then we've got, of course, Daniel, who's our master showrunner, who tirelessly worked with OBS and us, who are probably the hardest part of what to work with, and getting all of these people wrangled and having no real good plan, but pulling this off and going live for almost 40 hours. So thank you to that crew. And if you can get in here, crew, I'd love to see your faces in this crew. So thank you to you guys. Erica McKinney. Erica McKinney started 2 months ago trying to get HMs to this group, and to try and get people, and it's not easy. There are how many Lucasfilm productions going on right now? I don't even know if I'm supposed to say it, but five Lucasfilm productions are going on right now. So getting any of this talent here to do this was a massive accomplishment. So I thank you. One person that I have to thank more than anyone is Teresa, who may be on screen right now. We got her Ben screen.
I am. I did. I popped in.
You popped in. So I want to give you guys a little history about this event. And the history goes a little bit like this. Right after the 501st elections at the beginning of the year, Erica came to me and said, what are we going to do to anniversary 1138? And I said, well, here's the deal. This is going to be an interesting year for the 501st and for all the costume groups out there, because this is one of our first years where we're going to be getting back out there with fewer restrictions. And I think that we need to have our world focusing on trooping again. So we didn't want to create a summer distraction. We wanted to make sure that people felt comfortable getting back out there and doing what we do best, which is dressing up in these costumes, making people smile, and earning some great money for charity. So we had decided at that point that we were going to do a food-based charity, and it would happen towards the end of the year. And I think I picked Life Day as the rallying point, because why not? And as the year went on, things just get tougher and tougher and tougher, and the timing gets tighter and tighter and tighter. And as that curve of us going out there and trooping again kind of got steeper and steeper, we just started running out of time. And, we had started the process of putting this together, but the reality was it was very hard with the commitments that everybody has during this time of the year. And then Teresa enters the chat and says, guys, we have to do this. We need to do this. Our people need to come together on a common cause and hear that we are here as a Legion and have a strong voice together. And Teresa gave Erica, myself, and the rest of the team that was working behind the scenes the big energy to pull this together and to get all of you guys out there and at this point raise $6,926 in cash for World Central Kitchen. We have a undisclosed amount of food thus far, but the telethon is just a day, and we have this event that's going to continue to go on for the rest of the month. We would love to see this number hit $10,000 today. I would love to see anybody that's out there, start hitting that little, QR code and bring it in. But I wanted to really have all of us give a big round of applause to Teresa, who was the one that requested of me and Erica and the rest of the team to pull off this Christmas miracle. So thank you, Teresa. So thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Erica. Thank you, the backstage team. Thank you, the command staff that were involved in this chat. Dino, who made all the graphics. Taylor, who made music and set our original schedule. You guys are the real heroes of this event, and none of this wouldn't have happened without Teresa's statement that sleep is for the weak, and apparently
I don't know how I'm feeling
needed.
about that statement. It's a pretty poor statement right now.
Yeah.
I'm pretty tired.
Yeah.
Very well.
Nap.
We made a very conscious decision in this event that the PR team is
Could
an
I
amazing
just-
team. Oh,
I feel
Go
really badly to interrupt, but
No, you
John
can.
Gallagher was just on. Did you guys watch
we
that
did.
chat?
Yeah.
Okay. So John Gallagher said, you guys all, the Legion, its fans, anybody watching, anybody you better get tweeting, because he says you've got 15 minutes to donate and he will match it dollar for dollar. So
Wait.
if you want to smack down your hard wads of cash, He said this is the time. You have 15 minutes from 1:23.
Wow. And look at all these faces joining us. See, this is now turning into a party. So wait, we've got a challenge out there. Forget what I was going to say.
Yeah, we do have a challenge. You have 15 minutes. He will match dollar for dollar donation.
15 minutes, people. All right. So first of all,
So
I expect everyone to take
1:24.
out some form of phone right now and scan that QR code. You don't have to, but if you feel so inclined, we're going to make it tough on him, right?
I forgot to mention the caveat here.
You said it, John. You said it.
I know. The caveat is $10. No, I'm kidding. $10 or next 15 minutes, whichever comes first.
$10 for the next 15 minutes. Well, let's pimp that ride a little bit. Let's see. All right. So anybody out there, we're not supposed to have dead air. So I'm going to ask Mike Forrester a question.
Talk to me.
Mike, what do you think about this event?
The Life Day Telethon, when Teresa reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you like to be involved with this?" And then she told me what exactly was going to be happening. I was like, "Who? You guys are like, you're going to do this the whole time? Like, you're not going to take a break?" And she's like, "Teresa, I'm going to paraphrase. No, darling, this is just what we do." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, this sounds spot on." And the fact that, again, her energy in going about organizing this, going at it super hard, figuring out all of this, really just trying to organize it, and all of the team on the back end, because I've run into a couple people on the back end. It's just, congratulations to everybody. This is an incredible thing to witness, and see that this is all volunteers. This is all people who love Star Wars united by wearing costumes. Like, this is incredible. So my hats are off to everybody, of course, to you all. Thank you very much. This makes me incredibly proud to be a member of this costuming club.
I want to say something about Mike real quick as well. And I think that the future of this club is the power of its members, and the single member can make a difference in this club. And Mike and his group raised over $25,000 for veterans in Mission 22 this past couple of weeks through an amazing project that highlights the creativity that exists in this Legion by having troopers make ornaments, and they were all signature to themselves, and then throwing an auction for it. And how many ornaments were there?
Ended up being 42 in all, and then a couple of Hail Marys at the end from people who just felt like giving, because that's the kind of people that are involved in this project.
So 42 ornaments raised over $25,000, and that is an amazing accomplishment. So thank you. I want to acknowledge the Dad Batch group, who has also got a charity going on right now. And real quick, one representative talk about that.
Ramy.
Sorry, I was looking for the mute button. Yeah, so we have partnered with the National Down Syndrome Society, and we are raffling off. We've taken one of the Disney Cam Tonos, and John Rodriguez has chromed it. We're calling it the Chrome Tono, and we are adding new stuff to that every single day. And so you can follow us on our socials, including the Dad Batch Pod Instagram, and to see what's going into that and everything that we're doing there. Oh, Joe's showing the Chrome Tono right now. He has it.
There it is.
And so far right now and I don't even think I told the guys this. So our latest number, we've got over $4,000 raised for that, for NDSS. NDSS is blown away by the response that they've gotten for this. And so it's been a great partnership, and we've got our good friend Indy Speeder helping us, spread the love for this project as well. And it's just between what Mike's done with the ornament project, what we've got going on with this event here, the Chrome Town, it's just such a great time to be in this community.
And these are, for everyone that's out there, these are 501st members, but members doing their own thing, that whether they were inspired by, the giving, and that's why they joined the 501st, but what they're doing with this is creating and expanding our own community. So as the 501st, we thank you for coming through the gates and for continuing to expand our reach further and further and further. We have another group of podcasters here, the Generation X-Wing group. How are you guys doing?
Doing great. How are you?
Tell us about yourselves.
Well, myself, Jamie, and Steve 3 down there in the nice Centette. There you are. We are podcasters from Vancouver, British Columbia. Now Steve's in California. And we've been doing this podcast for 8 years. We talk about pop culture, Star Wars, but we also run a show called The Outer Rim Rookie, which is a beginner's journey to joining the 501st. So we kind of show people who are wanting to get into the 501st, but how do you do it? How do you build this costume? And this behind the scenes stuff, that what we do and the charities that we help out, and just basically a beginner's journey, because it's something that's super important to us. In fact, Steve and Jamie are the ones that introduced me into the 501st, and it's been like life-changing. And we have a motto in our group. It's we don't do it to relive our childhood. We do it so kids can live theirs. And that is the whole point of trooping. In fact, me and Jamie today just had a troop about an hour ago, and it's been a lot of fun.
Thank you guys so much. So what I'm wanting to show the world watching and our fellow brothers and sisters, this is just a small sliver sampling of what this community can do, and how the vision of one person that said, I just wanted to make a costume to go to a movie to look cool, and had no idea what it was going to turn out to. That's what started all of this. And we have come together because we love Star Wars. And then we took that step and we made a costume. And then we took a further step probably and made it more accurate, and then joined this group and found a family. These groups here that are forming are adjunct to us and are creating such a broad worldwide community. This is just a small bit. There are charity initiatives going on in almost every single garrison in every single part of the world. They're raising thousands of dollars for local needs, for worldwide needs, whether it's the bigger charities like Starlight or Make-A-Wish that we support over time, and now, of course, for World Hunger. So as the Legion Commanding Officer, I really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much worldwide, every unit that we have, for everything you do every weekend, the time that you give. We don't even count volunteer hours anymore. I don't even know how we would. It's in the thousands a week. So thank you guys all for that. So there's a party, y'all. When I'm from New Orleans originally, and you know, we always say les bon temps roulés, you know, and then that's let the good times roll. And we're gonna roll it Christmas style. We're gonna give I don't know how this is gonna go, but we're gonna sing the 12 days of Christmas. Right? Now, it's not gonna be the 12 days of Christmas, because not everybody celebrates Christmas. Different holidays around the world. But one that we can all agree on is the 12 days of Sithmas, right? We can all do that.
You have 8 minutes. 8 minutes left.
8 minutes
8
left?
minutes.
Oh gosh, we got to get through this in 8
left.
minutes.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Well, I don't know. You've got to wrangle people and bodies in 8 minutes. Maybe.
Let's do this.
Still 8
Let's
minutes.
Oh,
do
you're
this.
talking about for
Go.
the charity. Well, you know, Teresa, it's great. I'm glad you brought that up, because we just jumped up to $8,451.
Yeah.
Nice.
I know. Go.
So Teresa, what before we go into the song, you know, since we have 8 minutes, it's gonna take us 8 minutes to get through the song. What would you know, what
do I want to say?
What do you want to say to get people to go further, farther, faster?
I don't know. I don't know. I have so much to say. I think we should wish Daniel, our tech guy, a happy birthday. That's what I think for sure.
That's right.
So,
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Birthday.
And did you do a shout out to our tech team?
We did.
David
That was the
Perdue?
first. That was the first shout out.
Was
But
it?
go ahead,
Oh,
do it
it was.
again, because
Okay.
they deserve it.
Sorry, I missed it. David and James and Daniel. You guys got all 4 of them?
Yeah,
Just making sure.
we did.
And I know you keep saying that it's all me, and I'm gonna disagree. You know, I know it takes one person to say, yeah, I'll do it, but then you need to get people on board, otherwise you're dead in the water. And always right from the beginning, it was not me. It was Erica who said, can you help me get HMs? And because it was Erica who asked me to get HMs, I said yes. And so then when it came to me to say, yeah, I can do that, it was only if Erica would be my wonder twin in this. So this is a tag team partnership, and it would not have happened. Well, yeah, okay, I would have said yeah. Would it have been what we are? No, I don't think so. No way. You can't do it. You can't do these things without people. You can't be a Legion without people. And you can't be a PR team without PR folk. And all the great ideas in the world are useless unless you can execute them. This is a perfect example of what we are as a Legion. And oh God, here I go. Damn it, if you know me, I'm a weeper. I'm such a weeper. I'm so emotional. I love what we do. I love what we do. Otherwise, I mean, why do you give time to anything? It's because it has value and because it has meaning. And anything that you do, your heart must be in it. Otherwise, why in the hell are you wasting your life and time?
Right.
Our Legion is not a waste of time. What we do and what we give of ourselves is not a waste of time. To one another, to the charities we believe in, to the costumes that we choose because they resonate with us. Look, we've got John Gallagher here, who is our creator of Revan. We have a whole detachment full of costumes from the minds of people like that, who is now challenging us. I don't know. Come on, guys. We don't have many more minutes left. I'm going to stop rambling. We need to donate. Donate. If you can. I know
Anything
we
helps.
live
Every little bit
anything
helps.
So I don't know. Somebody else needs to talk because I'm just going to cry and blather and stuff that Teresa does. So pay no attention to that woman behind the Zoom chat.
All right, well, then we're gonna do it this way, y'all. We're gonna sing for our food, right? We're gonna sing. So while we are singing, please hit that donate. And if you are on a troop or in a unit, please fill out the form and donate food from your pantries. Let's do this. John, Alpha Ignition. Oh,
Go
ready?
It.
Let's
4
do
minutes.
it.
4 minutes.
All right.
4 minutes, folks.
Here we go. On the first day of Christmas, my apprentice gave to me a porg in a unity tree. Right? On the second day of Sithmas, my apprentice gave to me
2 Death Stars.
And hold on.
We're not you.
And porg in a unity tree. On the third day of Sithmas, this gave to me
3 Wookiees.
2 Death Stars.
And a porg in a unity tree. All right. On the fourth day of Sithmas, my apprentice gave me.
Who's got 4?
Who's got 4?
4's muted.
4 royal gods.
3 Wookiees.
2 Death Stars.
And a porg in a unity tree. The fifth day of Sithmas.
This is everybody.
Me.
5
Palpatines. 4 royal gods.
3 Wookiees.
2 Death Stars.
And a porg in a unity tree. On the sixth day of Sithmas, my apprentice gave to me
6 Neps a heading.
5 Palpatines.
4 royal gods.
3 Wookiees.
2 Death Stars.
And a porg in a
unity tree.
On the sixth?
Seventh.
Of Sithmas,
Oh, we are doing so poorly. Come on.
7 going swimming.
6 Neps a heading.
5
Palpatines. 4 royal gods.
3 Wookiees.
2 Death Stars.
And a porg.
Keep going.
On the eighth day of Sithmas, my apprentice gave to me
8 moves some milking. Crystals. Oh.
7 going swimming.
6 Neps a heading.
5 Palpatines. 4 royal gods.
3 Wookiees.
2 Death Stars.
And a porg in a
unity tree.
On the ninth day of Sithmas, my apprentice gave me
9 Twi'leks dancing.
8 moves some milking.
7 going swimming.
6 Neps a heading.
5 Palpatines. 4 royal gods.
3 Wookiees.
2 Death Stars.
and a porg in a unity tree. On the 10th?
10th.
Yes.
10th day, Sith Miss my apprentice gave to me.
10 Sith Lord slaying.
9 Twi'leks dancing.
8 move some milking.
7 going swimming.
6 snaps a heading.
5
Palpatines. 4 royal gods.
3
3.
Wookiees.
2 Death Stars.
And a porg in a unity tree. On the 11th day of Sith, apprentice gave to me.
11 bits a jizzing.
10 Sith Lord slaying.
9 Twi'leks dancing.
8 move some milking.
7 going swimming.
6 snaps a heading.
5
Palpatines.
4 royal gods.
3 Wookiees.
Death Stars.
And a porg. Come on.
In a Christmas tree.
On the 12th day of Sith, Miss my apprentice gave to me.
12 troopers trooping.
11 bits a jizzing.
10 Sith Lord slaying.
9 Twi'leks dancing.
8 move some milking.
7 going swimming.
6 snaps a heading.
5 Palpatines.
4 royal gods.
3 Wookiees.
2 Death Stars.
And a porg in a unity tree.
Oh my god.
Excellent.
Oh,
Very well, my
Excellent work.
friends.
You nailed it.
oh,
I would have given us money to stop doing that.
I mean,
I
would've
did
given us-
actually.
so-
I donated. I donated while that was
John,
happening.
you should have more singing.
What?
So someone.
Wow. Yeah.
What?
So someone's gonna have to do a tally there to see what we raised in that final little push. Still lots of time left today. Right.
Not much.
You take your donation back, right?
I think we were going deficit.
Nope.
We should have said donate a certain value to make us stop singing, and then that way we'd have
Right?
raised.
Yeah.
The only way to do it.
Next year.
Yeah.
Next year. Next year.
So
No, no,
bottom
That was
line.
absolutely awesome. You guys, that was awesome. You guys rock.
Thank you, and you
Thank
rocked
you.
it from Batu, another planet, Mr. Bender. Thank you. So to
No,
wrap
no, no.
this.
Please,
Right.
somebody say 4 royal guards again.
Who
Who have
All
royal-
royal gods.
I died every time.
Oh, that's great.
I wonder
Oh,
if they ever
God.
want to go back and change the name of what the Cantina music is called. If they ever thought the internet would just blow it up
No.
like they did.
I don't, Nina. I don't know what you're talking about. It's just a form of music. I don't
It's
know.
Star
Clearly.
Wars. It's Star
Totally
Wars.
Star Wars. It's Star Wars. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
Do we
yeah,
have
so
any time
that
left,
was-
Teresa?
what?
Do we have any time left to double?
No,
No.
we've blown past it unless
Okay.
someone else. Yep.
So
I do have a total
Absolutely, where we
from
were.
where we were to that. So it was 6926.33 to now the 849144.
Oh, wow.
That's what
Oh,
we
wow.
jumped.
That's a bunch.
Hold on.
It is
That's
a bunch.
692.
6926.33 to
Heck, what's the
84.
calculations on that? Come on.
They love us. They love us.
I think it was the singing. I think it was the
We
singing.
need to sing more.
It was the
We
singing,
need to
of
sing more.
$1,565.11, which I think if that comes in would hit our goal.
Round of applause to John.
Yay, John.
There we go.
Happy to match. All right.
Hey, John.
So I owe you guys what?
A drink.
1565.11.
All right. Let me write that down. Want to make sure I get it right.
And assuming
Sorry.
1565.11.
1865.
What? Yes. No, it's 15, but you know, if you heard 18.
Wait a minute.
I'll be.
Run that
15.
by me one more time.
Yep. 1565.11.
Okay. Perfect. I'm happy to kick in. I
With
will-
that donation.
Yeah.
With with that donation, we hit our goal.
Perfect.
What a way to end it. Amazing. What a Thank way you. to end it.
Very,
Thank you,
very,
John. That's
very
really
much.
cool.
$10,000.
Ring the bell, Forrester. All right. So to close this out, there's nothing really much more to say than just thank you to everyone that tuned in. We hope we were able to fill your day with a little bit of excitement and fun. For our members that are out there, I wish you a very peaceful, safe holiday season. We really thank you for everything that you do every year. And this campaign goes on through the end of the month. So please feel free to continue to fill up those food banks. They need our help. And beyond that, may the force be with all of us. We're going to end with a nice parting video. So Inferno Squad, take it away. Or Inferno Con, take it away.
Sorry, yeah, mute button problems. So just before we jump off, it was a real pleasure to be part of this with all of you guys, and thank you so much for pushing so hard there at the end for the donations. That's something that's been very close to our hearts too. 2 years ago in 2020, when the pandemic started, we started looking around for something that we could do. And just sort of in our little corner of the world, and we settled on something like this, although ours wasn't nearly as ambitious as this has been. So I don't know, is David on here? All right, well,
I don't think so.
I don't know if he is, but James, you were there. So we did our first little event in October, and that was we came up with these virtual things, but we really wanted like a human element, something where we could get people together. And James, actually both the Jameses, you guys were both there. So we settled on a photo shoot, and we went to all these links to make sure that nobody would get sick, poles separating people, and mask and all kinds of safety precautions. But for the first time in I don't know, that year anyway, we finally got this pretty sizable group of people together, and we had all kinds of photo opportunities. James, what was that thing that you guys did with the pilots?
Oh, so we did a volleyball game a la Top Gun. So on one side you had TIE pilots, the other side you had stormtroopers. I was one of the stormtroopers, and I can tell you that stormtroopers suck at volleyball. And there's video evidence to prove it. but it was all a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was, and that sort of spawned like a couple other events that we did. We started doing these around the holidays too. So when Justin and Erica and Teresa talked to us about this, they were gracious enough to tell us that we could close out the program here with a video that we sort of home brewed out of that photo shoot, with an original story that we wrote. And so when you see it, you're going to see a lot of pictures of people in masks and a lot of costumes that don't really look like they go together. And that's okay. It's from the heart, and it's something that when we put it together, we wanted it to sort of be kind of our gift to the squad, because I think Teresa was talking about this. We really felt very keenly at that time that people were we're in pain. We weren't together, people were scared, and we wanted to do something to try to at least help with that in whatever small way we could. So thank you guys for letting us be part of this. And James, I think we're ready when you are.
You're talking to Sylvius.
This is a story you've never heard before. It will never be in the official records. And in the great scheme of things, it's an insignificant event that didn't cause the rise of an empire or even the fall of a tyrant. A small look at a galaxy-wide conflict that ended on the other side of the world. You know what's coming up for us. This story doesn't have any heroes. No names that anyone will recognize. And no places that won't be remembered. But once you hear it, you'll understand why this is a tale worth telling. It was cold. It was always cold on this rocky planet. It had a name once upon a time, but now it was just called Sector 5. On the map, it showed up as an insignificant part of the western front of the war. But that only mattered to fleet admirals and commanders that pushed buttons and moved ships and divisions around, without actually needing to do anything as so much as stand up. The population, they cared even less. They left long ago for any other place. Any other place. And the only reason the fighting continued was the importance that this place had as a fueling station for long-range transport ships carrying war materials from one side of the galaxy to the other. Both sides were exhausted from the endless fighting. The war had a reason, had a purpose, but these were the lofty goals and vague desire expressed to bring all people together under the imperial flag. But all that meant was the troops actually fighting the war was that the phrase victory or death seemed to have taken on a meaning that emphasized the latter over the former. Our story is about a squad taking part in this grand campaign. Part of the 26th Brigade of the 18th Division, and having been created out of recruits from the same core world, they called themselves the Firestorm Squad. Partly because of the commander's optimistic hope that they would take inspiration from the name. In reality, the name stuck because it reminded the troops that there was a thing such as warmth. While the squad was made up of pilots, soldiers, and support crew, all were equally tired, all were equally cold, and all of them missed their home planet and their traditions.
You never knew what kind of mission the day would bring. One day we would fly escort missions, bringing supply ships down from a visiting fleet freighter. And the next day we'd be tasked with mapping out someplace that had gotten plastered by the fighting and had the landscape changed. Most of the time it was boring, repetitive flying. But every so often the squad would find itself in another mess, and we'd be asked to fly cover for them. It was an ugly business. There was never anything glorious about it. Just hoping you wouldn't get blasted and come down in the mud and muck.
The stormtrooper corps of the squad had taken the worst beating. Between being forced to live in the field for days and having to put up with not only the harsh elements, but pot shots as well as the occasional raid, the troopers that started out as a proud group of recruits spit shined and organized, was now a group that sported armor that looked like they'd found it in a garbage disposal, and faces that were haggard and unkept.
Thinking of home was something you didn't want to do. It was just too hard. Back at the village, when the year turned cold, we knew that it was time to rest from all the work we did in the fields and celebrate the holiday. The whole village would come together and we'd do the typical fare of playing games and singing songs. We would give each other gifts and look forward to what the next year would bring, surrounded by our family and friends. It was a time to be together. You didn't want to think about that. You didn't want to think about that here.
We all joined the Imperial military together. It was a proud moment when we all stood together and took the oath. It felt right, like we were defending our homes and families. We had no idea we'd be sent so far away for so long. I'd hoped I'd serve on a Star Destroyer with the others in my squad, but they sent us here to Sector 5. And now I'm doing double shifts trying to keep our command post operational and the rest of our squad supplied. It hasn't been going well.
Normally, being assigned to armor carried some glamour with it. By the time I finished my basic infantry training, I knew that I wanted to be at the controls of one of the Empire's big war machines. Growing up, one of the best parts of the year was harvest time, when I got to drive our big collector. As it rumbled over the furrows, I imagined that it was a pulse tank, or even an AT-AT, the pinnacle of Imperial might. When I was accepted in the armor training program, I thought that when I finally deployed with my squad, I would experience the same thrill that I felt as a boy. By the stars, was I wrong.
When the Firestorm Squad arrived at Sector 5, their situation had quickly gone from bad to worse. The bulk of their naval detachment had been called away, needed to press the war against the rebellion elsewhere. What was once a proud brigade was reduced to one squad, made up of infantry, command and support staff, and a few pilots flying increasingly unreliable old model type.
When we landed, we had plans for a grand campaign that would end the fighting by the end of the year. After weeks of trading ground with the rebels, though, we ended up digging in and hoping we could hang on. It was one thing when we had supplies coming in, but now we just send out the occasional patrol and try to secure the gains we've made. The orders that we get don't make any sense. It's like command doesn't understand that what we look like on the datapad doesn't reflect the situation we have here. We can't win and we can't leave.
Flying over Sector 5, it was easy to see just how dug in each side was. Fortified positions dotted the landscape. Although there was little in the way of combat, occasionally you'd see the sparkle of a blaster bolt fired at some poor soul who had unwittingly exposed themselves. Most of our job on patrol was to keep an eye on things below. Make sure the X-Wings on the other side weren't getting too bold. Boring, with sudden moments of sheer terror, is the best way that I can describe those patrols.
We could hear the fighters scream across the sky, making that weird howl of theirs. Most of the time you kept your head down, but every now and then an X-Wing or two would show up when our pilots were over the lines, and when that happened, the rules for us on the ground changed. Without even thinking about it, both the rebels and us would stop worrying so much about shooting each other and instead cheer for our pilots. They were thrilling displays of light and noise, and the most satisfying outcome for both sides was when the pilots had to break off and return to base without someone being shot down. No one liked to think too much about what happened to a pilot who crashed on the surface, but I don't think I've ever cheered that loudly for anything else when the ships were twisting around in the sky.
There wasn't really any honor in what I did. The rebels didn't really have much to match the Walker in the beginning, and it was almost an unpleasant surprise to see how easily the big machine crushed any infantry unfortunate enough to be in its path. I'd trained to fight, and I guess I always thought it would be a fair fight.
turned into months, and the situation, despite the wishes of higher command, was astounding. Neither side had the strength to break the other, and neither side was willing to concede the ground. So Firestorm Squad remained tightly locked in a fight they couldn't win, and hope of ever getting some further.
We'd been deployed for, 8 or 9 cycles, and had begun realizing that we weren't going to be home for the holidays. We all missed our families, although it was almost an unwritten rule that you didn't talk about it. Most of us had never been off our homeworld before this, much less known anything about the devastation that war brought to a place. Missing our holiday traditions almost seemed trivial, but we did what we could. A decoration on the wall of the command post or a little sprig of something alive tucked into a trooper's armor served as a reminder that there was another place where people didn't have to walk around crouched over and where the sky was lit up with fireworks, not laser bolts.
We tried our best to keep up traditions where we could. Most of us still wore our people's sign around our necks, despite the Empire's disdain for such things. And little gestures like pressing our palms in greeting or humming a song were quietly observed. Our officers looked the other way most of the time, and I think they were as homesick and tired of the fighting as we all were.
Order, uniformity, obedience. That's what was drilled into us at the academy. It was our job to keep the troops in our squad motivated and fighting. The longer that we were deployed, however, the harder it got. We wanted to get home as badly as anyone else, and between ourselves, we were just as angry as the squad was that we'd seemingly been forgotten in this place.
As the time for the winter celebration approached, the members of Firestorm Squad hunkered down and hoped they'd made it through until the fleet returned. There was almost no thought for comfort or home. But every now and then, some little oddity would take place. It was just enough to keep the flame of hope alive. That this would end soon.
Over in my section, we found a tree that had been cut down by the shelling, but had somehow survived intact. Someone said it kind of looked like a tree we had back home, which got us all to thinking about the celebrations we were missing. So we hoisted the tree over our bunker one night when it was quiet. There were some rebels that took a few pot shots at it, but remarkably, it stayed intact, looking at a place in the landscape covered by duracrete and mud.
Discipline was lax on the front lines. We'd heard that some outposts had foolishly put up decorations that reminded them of home, and officially we tried to stop it whenever we could. But there's only so much you can tell soldiers who are less afraid of punishment than they are of what's directly in front of them. We even got some reports that singing was heard from the rebel lines, but that seemed too far-fetched even for this place.
Now we come to the part of the story that's so remarkable. In a place with so much misery, on the eve of what should be a day of celebration, all that the squad had to look forward to was more of the same dreary survival. But what could possibly happen in this place so far from home, so far from family, that would be worth telling?
I think it started that evening. It was a quiet night, and even the sharpshooters seemed uninterested in looking for fresh targets. In the command post, we received the usual all clear and quiet calls from the various outposts, and we settled in for another long night. Our food preparation staff was trying to pull something special together for the meal that would be served to the squad in the morning. But given how low on supplies we were, it seemed like the holiday would pass without much in the way of recognition. That all changed when we started hearing transmissions from the pilots who were flying the last patrol of the day.
It was the oddest thing that I saw in that patrol. All throughout the rebel lines, we saw little twinkling lights. It almost looked like I'd imagined our village did back home, with the dark, cold night being softly lit by the promise of family and celebration. But it seemed foreign and out of place in Sector 5. We transmitted what we saw, knowing that the morning would bring a new round of flights designed to discover the purpose of this new development.
I had just finished the paperwork for the evening and stepped out of our command post on the line. It was clear and calm, and unlike some nights, both sides seemed content to let the other rest. As I stood, I thought that I heard the faint sound of singing in the distance, as if it was coming from the enemy's lines. I started walking up to our forward positions to see if I could determine what the source of the sound was.
Yes, we could hear the rebels singing, and it sounded so much like one of our holiday songs that we decided to serenade them back. No sooner had we finished our song than the rebels came back with their musical reply, and so it went back and forth. The officers just watched, not wanting to interfere on the night that at home would be Holidays Eve, and for just a few minutes everyone felt a little bit normal again.
Two sides, locked in mortal combat, surrounded by misery in a place so far from home that the light from their star wasn't even a speck in the sky. Singing to each other. That is truly remarkable. But the last part of the story is what will convince you that it was a tale worth telling.
So when we woke up in the morning, the front was all quiet. There was a mist, enough that you couldn't see the other lines. We slowly started preparing for the patrol that was coming and tried not to think about how much different things were here on this day of holiday than what we had known at home.
We sent the patrol orders and crossed our fingers that this would be a day when everyone came back in one piece. If there was any day that would merit that, surely this day would be the one.
I was assigned to a patrol as the armored liaison. I don't think any trouble was expected, but they liked having one of us along so that we could call in armored support if it was needed, while the infantry set up a clear corridor for our scout walkers to get to them.
I led the stormtrooper detail out into the ground between the lines. Our job was to look for any changes in the terrain and to note anything that would potentially hinder what we all knew was the inevitable attack to break the stalemate. The fog was shifting around enough that I couldn't clearly see where we were, and I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me as I saw movement in the mist ahead of us. Suddenly, I realized that I wasn't seeing things. It was a rebel patrol, and they brought their blasters up at the same time we did.
The muzzles on their blasters looked as big as dinner plates. Everyone froze. It was so quiet that you could hear the droplets of water falling off our armor and hitting the ground. I mean, we all knew what was about to happen. And then, out of the silence, a voice just started singing from the rebel lines. I didn't recognize the song, but it sounded hopeful and cheerful. And then a heartbeat later, an Imperial voice joined in from our lines. As we stared across our blasters at each other, we heard more from both sides join in.
I don't know why I did it. Both patrols had their weapons leveled and pointed straight at each other. Maybe it was because I heard the singing that had started. If that was it, it was just a reaction that happened well before I could think it through, I guess. I straightened up, stepped forward, and held out my hand. I don't know what I was expecting to happen. That should have been the last thing I ever did. It was dead silent, except for what had become a chorus of voices that we could now clearly hear. After what seemed like an eternity, one of the rebels smiled and lowered his blaster. Reaching out, he grabbed my hand. We greeted each other as old friends would, while what I had done slowly started sinking in.
We had just crossed into the airspace between the lines when we saw 4 X-Wings enter the same space. S-foils locked and lasers at full power. We prepared to face them, but we knew this was likely to result in a bad ending for our patrol. Over the comm, our flight leader suddenly called out that he saw something unusual below us. Moments away from a full engagement with rebel fighters, I looked down into the space between the lines and saw rebels and Imperials standing together, weapons lowered, and shaking hands. What did it mean?
With the fog rapidly clearing between the lines, what started as 2 patrols lowering their weapons and shaking hands turned into something so unusual that it was almost unbelievable. Soldiers from both sides left their fortifications and began walking towards each other, waving and exchanging greetings. In the skies overhead, pilots powered down their weapon systems and waggled their wings at each other. Officers either passively watched as the spirit of the holiday took over the lines, or sought out their counterparts and exchanged their own pleasantries, and offered what small comforts they had.
I found out that the rebels, just like us, had all signed up together. And like us, they were missing a celebration that was traditional with their people. I had no idea that these soldiers were so much like me. We called the holiday by different names, but when we looked at each other, we knew that even though some of the names and customs were different, we all missed our families and all wished we were home with them. You know, I never thought I'd see the day when I could take off my helmet and share a drink with a rebel, alliance, soldier. But I did that day.
My channel's lit up with reports coming in about the remarkable thing happening across the battlefield. We couldn't believe it. Imperials and rebels celebrating peacefully? High Command was furious. Message after message came in demanding that we immediately resume combat operations. In the squad command post, we came to an unspoken agreement that for as long as the truce held, our long-range comms would malfunction. We even managed to get a few of the rebel comm operators on frequency and wished them a happy holiday.
I stood and talked with a few of the Reb Alliance officers. I gave them some of our traditional holiday cookies that I had in my pack, and they shared some sort of beverage that burned a little when I drank it, but reminded me of sitting at home watching my little brothers play by the fire. We swapped stories about our families and what we'd be doing if we weren't at Sector 5. What we said was a little bit different, but we all meant the same thing. I didn't know when this truce would end, and I didn't really care.
That day was truly one of the most astonishing holidays that anyone there could remember. Laughter rang out across the desolate land between the lines. And there was even a game involving a ball with very few rules. That evening, while the troops sang across the lines, pilots from both sides flew together, not dropping bombs, but signal beacons and flares that had been reprogrammed to overload and produced the most colorful explosions that had ever been seen in the place. No one knew what the days to come would bring. Uncertainty is part of a soldier's life, and all were accustomed to living without paying too much attention to the future. for that day, the war stopped in Sector 5. Now that you've heard this remarkable story that you won't hear anywhere else, what will you choose to do with it? Was it a fluke? Something that was an accident? Or does it show something more? Something that reaches out and touches us all?